We're praying that the sound is on. The sound audio is good, because last time I rode this bike, it did not. But guys, welcome to the 2025 Harley-Davidson Road Glide ST. This is a beast. Got over a 12-inch display here. Lots of information. We got Rockford Fosgate speakers here in the front, and that's all the speakers you're going to get. This bike was built for performance, so I think they're ditching the speakers in the weight to cut weight. It's back to cut weight, which is kind of funny because this bike weighs 838 pounds. All right, let's start this bike. Oh, if ever there was a big start on a motorcycle, that was it. A lot of rumble here, which if you're a Harley fan, you're okay with that rumble. We got all this adjustability as far as wind deflection. We got a vent here on the fairing here, and we've got some near the legs. We want all that deflection on this bike. And years past, this front fairing actually, I felt like came up higher, but with the newer models, I feel like it's definitely lower, which I like. This display obviously is awesome and displays all this information well. I will say, it feels like in years past, like this fairing didn't seem so huge, and maybe it's because it feels closer now because of just the nature of how they've changed the Road Glide. Maybe it felt like it was a little farther away before, but man, this is big. It's got storage in here. It's got cords where you can charge and hook things up. It's got wired and wireless Apple CarPlay, which we won't mess with at all. We're not going to mess with the sound or the infotainment, so if you want more information on the infotainment, I'll actually put a link in the description. Let's talk about controls before we get started. We got the hazards here on the right, along with your kill switch. I don't know what PTT is. I'll have it on the screen because I'll put that for you, but there's a call button here. All this controls for your music here on the right. And ride mode and blinker on the right as well. On the left, we got tons of controls on this bike. I got your trip toggle and traction control on the same button. Your cruise control right next to that. You've got menu buttons and menu toggles all there on the left side, in the middle, as well as the back button. Woo! I'm cautious when I ride a bike this big and this powerful at 838 pounds. I want to say it's over 120 horsepower and over 145 feet-pounds of torque. This is just a beast, and I just like to be cautious. It's like if you were to get on a large animal and you don't want to try and get it to run right away. You just want to get used to it first, and that's what we're doing. And finally, we got the horn and the left side turn signal, the left turn signal on the left. There's all kinds of options, like I mentioned before, as far as how you can have this display information presented to you. I like this display here with kind of mocks a digital, or excuse me, an analog display with the tachometer and the speedometer. I like that, so we're gonna keep it there. Gotta drag the peg. We got the mini footboards on this bike, and we'll talk about comfortability, riding position, where your controls are with your hands and with your feet. I think this is a very comfortable bike. At 5'6" with a 30-inch inseam, the riding position is really nice to me. The handlebars kind of curve back to meet me where I'm sitting. You got these, classically fat hand grips, and the clutch actually is pretty, for a big Harley tourer, is actually kind of it's not as tight of a clutch, and I like that. After a day of riding and having to squeeze that heavy clutch all day long, it can get tiring, and this bike actually feels a little more loose. That's the wrong word. It feels good. Let's just put it at that. But yeah, riding position, we've got forward controls with these mini footboards. Everything was within my reach, and with I think it's a 26, just above 26-inch ride height, the seat height. I believe I can, even with as wide as this bike is, I believe I can flat foot it. But we'll get to that later when we stop. Haven't had to do that yet. This seat here, it's a solo saddle on this bike, and it's very firmly keeping me in place, which you're gonna need because of all this power. And nothing is actually hitting me in the leg. On some of the other models, the Softails that I've ridden today, I was either hitting the derby cover, or I was hitting the air cleaner. I'm wide open here at 5'6" and a 30-inch inseam on the Road Glide ST. So it's a very comfortable riding position. As sporty and as aggressive as this bike is, I'm very comfortable. Only thing I would say is I would like maybe not having to reach so far with my fingers for this clutch and brake. It would be nice if it was a little more leaned back towards my hands. But again, if you're a taller rider, that's probably not going to be an issue. All right, we're going to get on it. Let's put this baby in sport mode. The indicator down there in the left corner of this giant display is where you'll find the ride mode. And this bike comes with sport, rain. Oh, there's another one. Maybe it dials up the aggressiveness. Maybe that's a custom. There's road, but now we're in rain. We got to change that. Now we're in sport. Oh, you know, you expect one thing. You expect when you get on it to have that rumble that we felt when the bike started to be a little greater. But actually, when you get going faster, the bike actually feels smoother. Which is dangerous because this bike has a ton of power and is so fast, and the power is so easy that I can see you getting in trouble. If it wasn't glaring you in the face at how fast you were going, I could see you getting it up to 90 and really not knowing it, because you got all this wind protection as well. And oh my goodness, what that's kind of a rush. Having something this large go this fast, this easily, it's pretty awesome. All right, so we're on the highway here. Let's try out cruise control. Kind of in a weird place here up on top, but you're going to be cruising a lot on this bike because it's so comfortable. Finding a destination where you can get a little curvy, you can adjust the speed here using the switch. And one of the nice things about having this huge display is that it's showing me my cruise speed as well as indicating that the cruise control is on. So I can change the cruise control without having to do anything with the throttle. All right, now on the highway obviously is where these touring bikes excel, and this bike is no different, even though it's a performance bagger. This bike is so comfortable. You've got adjustable front and rear suspension with the Showa outboard adjustable shocks on the back. They look awesome. This bike, even though it's funny that it would cut weight by making the front fender the carbon fiber, but it does. It looks cool. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about over an 800 pound motorcycle. But what I will say about that, just a slight tap on the brake gets that cruise control off, and we're just going to turn it off now that we tried it. What I will say that at 838 pounds, obviously, like for me, when I have a huge fairing that's attached to the bike and not to the handlebars, one thing it does is it doesn't make these front handlebars feel so heavy. But the other thing that it does is make it so it feels, for me, somebody who never has really had a bike like that, it's kind of intimidating. The first time I ever rode a Road Glide, I didn't almost, but like I felt like I was going to run into stuff because I wanted to look here when I should be looking at the road. But all that being said, at 838 pounds, this bike does not feel that. It does not, especially when you get out on the road. Again, with the riding position that we already talked about at 5'6", my knees nicely hug this tank, which is, again, when we're talking about something that is a very capable touring motorcycle, as far as like being able to get aggressive in turns and stuff, having my knees be able to hug the tank and not be in a weird position is nice. Again, it's going to differ for those, but if you're at 5'6" or around that height, I think the national average and average height for a male in the United States is 5'8". So I'm short on the short end, but if you're 5'8", you're going to be comfortable on this bike. All right. Let's talk about brakes. This bike actually comes with I think it's called the electronic braking system. What it does with that braking system is make it so that if you start using the rear brake or the front brake only, it's actually going to engage the rear brake or the front brake as well. So if you use one brake, it's going to engage both of them. That's a really cool feature. I don't know that I've ever seen that on a Harley, on a motorcycle, period, and definitely not on a Harley. So we've got a bunch of other great Harley safety features, which started becoming standard on the Harley touring lineup a long time ago, but this one dials it up a notch by having ABS, cornering ABS. You've got the clutch system that makes it so that even if you were to clutch down too early. Slow speed maneuvering, excellent on this motorcycle. So even if you were to clutch down too early, it's going to slip the clutch, I think, so that you're not screeching the tires and letting this rear end get out from you, which can be a scary thing on a bike this big. I mean, we've got a slew of features here that I can't cover all of them on such a short test ride, but just getting into this ride, there's just nothing that I don't like about this bike. The red is a little audacious. I don't know what the word is. It's bold. This red color is bold. I would prefer a bike like that was mostly black and had red highlights. But this bike is what it is, and it wants to yell it from the rooftops as far as performance goes. And it's bright red, and it is definitely cool. Definitely cool. I'll give it that. Oh, see, I leaned pretty good into that turn, and I didn't even feel like the peg was getting close. This is a sharper turn, and I feel like it's an awkward turn because I feel like it goes uphill, which I've scraped pegs here often on these test rides here at Iron, Steed, Harley-Davidson, and Vacaville. But here we go. We're going to take this turn wide because there's nobody out here. And we're going to try and really lean into it while we're really slowing down. Oh, yeah. Lean angles on this bike, I'll have that up on the screen for you, but that was a pretty sharp turn, and I kind of felt like the peg was getting close, but no scrape at all. You can attest that to the mini footboards, because I'm sure with, like, we're looking at the fat boy in front of us with these big wide footboards, that we would have scraped on that one, I'm guessing for sure. I don't see here any indication that there's grip warmers. I'm sure that's something you can add. I can't imagine that they would make a Road Glide without the option to have grip warmers. But as far as suspension, I know that this bike is probably out of the dealer is going to be tuned to be a little more aggressive. That's something I'm sure they can help you with as well. But what I will say is this bike feels like it's been tuned. The suspension has been tuned for comfortability. Because we're out here on this bumpy California back road, and I am so comfortable. It's just taking all these bumps and making this ride fairly smooth. I will say though, now that I talk about it, we're getting into this area that's a little bit more bumpy, that maybe we've got found a happy medium as far as performance tuned suspension and comfortability tuned suspension, because I feel like when I rode the Fat Bob, this was a little less bumpy, and yeah. But the nice thing is that you have all this adjustability in the front and in the rear to tune the suspension how you are going to be riding it. It might just be tuning it to the way that you're going to be riding that day. Maybe you're taking this beast of a motorcycle out into some canyon roads and you want to get aggressive. You can tune it that way, and then maybe the rest of the day you're going to be out on a long stretch of highway where you're just putting the miles in, and you can adjust it that way. So yeah, one of the great things about adjustable suspension. No, so I cannot flat foot this bike. What I will say, as far as we look at a $44,000+ motorcycle, I know it's got all the performance and the electronics and technology to try to justify that price. But what I will say is that at that price, there are a lot of motorcycle companies that make touring bikes, not necessarily cruisers, that have electronic suspension adjustments. It's more of a convenience because I know that people who own Harleys like to work on their bikes, which is totally fine. But at 44 grand, I think that maybe that's something that Harley should be offering. That is just my opinion, because obviously, and maybe I'll get some flack here from viewers, that's not what Harley's about. But and I've heard even people today, even riders today, mention like, oh, you know, this is one of those bikes that you're gonna get it and you're not gonna touch it. It's perfect the way it is. But I'm pretty sure even if you bought the Road Glide ST that you're going to make some changes of your own. Even with an exhaust, it sounds great with the titanium mufflers. That looks cool. It sounds great. I know there's riders out there that want louder, even more bold. And so yeah, I mean that's the nature. It's called the Harley tax. You've heard of it. So we're going to get into some slow speed maneuvering, get into this part of the ride where we talk about who wants this bike? Who's this bike for? Who's this bike not for? This bike is not for the faint of heart. Even a typical Road Glide, big beast of a heavy tourer, is not for riders who are just getting into motorcycles, and maybe not even just getting into touring. There are other bikes that you can tour on that have bags and that are comfortable to ride for long distances. But this is a bike that is like you've got there. Now you're there. You're a touring motorcycle rider, and you know that's what you want. Because at the price, especially for the ST, for the price at 44 grand, you know, this is just for somebody who knows exactly what they want, and exactly what they might want is the Road Glide ST. Because I've got nothing to complain about with this motorcycle, for sure. This bike is everything that it's cracked up to be. But it is the price tag is not for everybody. So that's who it's not for. Who is it for? Now, for somebody like me who has had lots of big cruisers and is good with and has lots of miles and lots of practice on big cruisers, but maybe is looking for something to get out on longer rides with. Likes the fact that it's got saddlebags, likes the fact that you're not going to be sacrificing any performance with this bike going from a big cruiser to a bike like the Road Glide ST. Let's take this out and put it in rain mode. See how that feels. Neutral, very easy to find. I will also say that. We talked about that. But for somebody like me who wants to graduate to a bike without sacrificing performance, because I've also ridden sport nakeds before, so you know I don't want to end up on a motorcycle that I'm going to feel like I'm taking a step back. If I'm wanting to get out on longer rides, I'm wanting to tour, and I've got a lot of extra money to throw around. This is definitely a bike that I would consider. One of the big factors for me when I'm buying a bike, and I know that this isn't everybody, but for me, is the way a bike looks. And this bike, it looks the way that it rides. It lives up to the hype. When you look at this bike, it looks aggressive, it looks mean, it's bold, and that's how you're gonna be. I think that's how you're gonna be riding when you're riding the Road Glide ST, because it is everything that it appears to be. And and with this bright red color, it's not trying to hide it. So yeah. All right, so this is where we get to that part of the ride where if you have any questions about the Road Glide ST, and I have not mentioned them in this video, make sure you leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them, and if I cannot answer that question, I'll find the answer for you. We didn't talk a whole lot about this display, but there's so much information here, and really kind of useful information. Obviously, with the navigation being super clear and right there in the center, that's helpful. We've already talked about the gear. Well, we didn't talk about the gear, but the gear's there, nice and visible, right on underneath the speed, and the tachometer on the right. So not only do you have the speed displayed digitally in the center, you've also got that analog looking speedometer on the outside, which is a little weird. But you got the tachometer. I would have actually liked to see the tachometer and the speed and then maybe another speedometer. I don't know. It's redundant is what I'm saying. But you've got your fuel your fuel gauge on the left there, and then your battery voltage. So like all this useful information, there's a lot of it, and I don't think that it's overkill, because definitely, like, if you look at like I want to say the Honda Africa Twin is notorious for having too much information. This, I feel like, is a lot, but just enough. It's not too unlike if you're driving a car, having that information for you right in front of you. But gorgeous display. I've got a tinted visor on, and there's a little bit of sun today, and I can see this screen just fine. Well, this is the end of the ride, folks. If you enjoyed this video, you found it helpful, you just like riding along with me, make sure you hit that thumbs up down there, which is the like button, and if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button. Everybody, if you're out there riding, please be safe, be kind to one another. My name is Eric, I'm that one guy, and I am out.